Annette Rogers gossip. Boy, this column seems to be really getting around.
Gene.
Hey!
How you doing?
Oh, fine. I hope you don't mind me being in here. Young lady by the name of Miss Summers said it was okay.
Oh, no, not at all. Just so long as you don't do any snooping around. I wouldn't want the press to get wind of all this illegal funds they have hidden in the desk.
Yeah. Seems like the press has already gotten wind of something.
Such as?
Oh, such as what's really going on between Lee Carruthers and Kate Phillips. There never was an engagement, was there, Sebastian? It was all a trick to cover up Lee Carruthers' playboy image, to make him more stable and desirable to the public.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, no, I think you do. And I'm not leaving until I get some answers.
Why would you possibly think there's a problem with Lee and Kate? It's the first I've heard of it.
Is it? Well, look what I found while I was waiting. An article in the Kingsley Times? And isn't it odd that it happens to be in Annette Rogers' gossip column?
So you have been snooping.
Oh, just tidying up a bit, Sebastian.
Well, this doesn't prove a thing.
Oh, it doesn't? Well, listen, that column happens to contain an item about two very prominent Kingsley citizens who may be involved in bogus engagement.
Yeah, but no names were mentioned.
That's right. So there's only been so many prominent Kingsley engagements that's been announced lately. So
Well, I don't care what some silly woman wrote. It isn't true. And you shouldn't need me to point up her track record on things like that.
Oh, so you're going to get a little hot under the collar there, huh, Sebastian?
Is she your source? Is that why you're here?
Look, that column only serves as a catalyst. Now, I'll be honest with you, man. I don't want to do this thing any more than you want me to. But the truth of the matter is that I have an editor who believes that if there's any truth to this thing, that it could be a very hot story.
Then why don't you interview those two prominent citizens yourself? Here, you just talk to Kate Phillips.
Yes, I intend to. But seeing as how you're the one who brought this engagement information up to me, I thought I would talk to you first.
Well, then listen to me then. Don't give credit to that Annette Rogers gossip.
Sebastian, I have my orders. Now look, if someone has to do this, then I figure that I would do it in such a way that the people that I care about would be hurt the least.
Uh-huh. And no matter how it's done, Lee Carruthers will be hurt the most.
Well, no, it doesn't paint a very pretty picture, but I can't help that. After all, I'm not the one who created this situation.
Oh, but you're going to finish it off, though, aren't you? You'll excuse me.
Look at it this way, Sebastian. I've already done you one favor, and I'm about to do another.
Oh, really?
I know for a fact that that engagement story was false the day it was printed. Now, I already wrote a retraction, but I haven't submitted it to my editor yet.
Oh, why? Because you thought it would make you look foolish?
For the same reason that I don't want to do this now, and you should be thankful of that. Your candidate has gotten a lot of mileage out of that article. And I know for a fact that it is responsible for him going ahead of Wainwright in the polls.
Yeah, and this new article will be responsible for him to go right back behind again.
Maybe. My second favor. I'm going to give you a chance to give me a statement about Lee Carruthers that would put him in a positive light. Now, listen, I don't want to go for the throat. What do you say, Sebastian?
Look, I wasn't lying to you before about Lee asking Kate Phillips to marry him. And I'm not lying now when I say that it has not been demonstrated to me that they won't be married.
Sebastian, I don't want to make this any messier than it has to be.
You have your statement.
Okay.
Are you suggesting that I should be embarrassed or ashamed of kissing Gil?
Not at all. I simply think
Good, because I'm not. My relationship with Gil is right where I want it to be. I'm happy about it. And when it goes further, I'll be even happier.
You sound more defensive than happy.
Only because you're forcing me to defend myself.
I was simply making an observation.
You made a judgment, Mother.
All right. Maybe I did. But what I'm concerned about is not what you're doing, but who you're doing it with. I have great reservations about your involvement with Gil.
Because of what you think he is or because of what he and Amber were?
Both. I mean, not that I don't think that you're capable of dealing with what he is.
If there's a compliment in there somewhere, I'm not sure I appreciate it.
What does Amber know about all of this?
She's seen us together?
Has she seen what your father and I have?
No.
Well, she will.
Well, I think she may already suspect.
But doesn't that worry you?
Mom, if Amber's unhappy, it's her own doing. She didn't give Gil what he needed, and she didn't see and take from him what could have made her happy. It was over long before I became involved. Even Amber has to acknowledge that. And if she still wants to accuse, well, then let her. Because what Gil and I have, even at this point, she can't touch. I'm happy. I'm happy in a different way than I've ever been before. Can't you be happy with me?
I am. But happiness can be very expensive. You have to be prepared to pay for it.
Mom, I'm almost forgetting what I came over here for.
Oh?
Sit down with me.
All right.
This morning, the Kingsley Times published a piece of gossip that questioned your engagement to Lee.
They actually came out and said that.
Well, you know Annette Rogers. She doesn't actually come out and say anything. But the implication was very clear.
Well, we'll just ignore it. That's the best way to deal with these things.
And will you ignore Gene Redlin when he comes to question you? You see, my editor believes the rumor. Mom, you want to have the best of both worlds. You want to help Lee get elected, so you won't question or contradict his lies about your relationship. Yet at the same time, you're pursuing a reconciliation with Dad. Something's got to give.
The answer seems simple enough to me.
Amber.
You're not with Gil?
Should I be?
No, I guess not. He didn't know I would be here, and he usually uses you when he wants to make points.
I'd suggest that you behave yourself, Amber. You're a guest in my home. And incidentally, I'd prefer that my guests use the doorbell.
The door was left open, Mother. I'm sorry. I thought that I was always welcome in your home. Oh, Stacy, I'm having dinner out tonight. Would you like to know where so you and Gil can make the most of it?
Amber, you behave yourself.
No, Mother, let her, because when she's through, I'd like to fill her in on a few things.
That's all right, Miriam. I understand.
Oh, thank you, Wyoming. Terry, I just wish I could. I mean, what am I really supposed to feel? I divorced him, and he's dead. I can't really pretend that I really liked him. I mean, even after all the changes I made, he was still so cold to me. And I did resent the fact that he would only let me be such a small part of Eric's life. And yet, we did have a life together. 10 years may not seem like much by some standards, and a lot of it was awful. But a lot of it wasn't. I just really hate the way I'm feeling right now, Terry.
It's all right, Miriam. The way that you feel is very legitimate. It'd be a mistake for you to pretend you feel other than you do.
But if you could have heard the way Daddy would carry on all during our marriage about Paul.
Oh, honey, don't think about your father. You moved away from all that aggravation. Now just stay away from it.
I wish I could, Ione. But I know it is just a matter of time until Daddy makes another play for Eric. I can't even imagine what it will be this time. But whatever it is, I'm certain it will be something really magnificent.
Where's Eric now?
He's upstairs.
How's he taking it?
Not well at all. He has hardly spoken to me since I told him. He pretends that he hasn't cried. But I've stood outside of his bedroom and listened to him sobbing.
Well, you know, he won't talk to me either.
Poor kid. Look, I don't suppose it'd do any good to let me try.
Let me take a wild guess as to what you're going to say. You're in love. That's right, isn't it? And I suppose this is my cue to fall to pieces.
I'm not claiming anything as serious as love. But what I have with Gil is more mature and fulfilling than anything you ever had with him.
Mature, the word isn't even in his vocabulary, and although it may be in yours because it's something you hope to be someday, you're a long way from it now, especially when you make statements like that.
People who live in glass
I'm not
houses
making
and
any statements about myself.
Good.
Stacy, sister to sister, all personal feelings aside, just stop and think for one moment. If someone were angry with you, say an ex-lover.
No names, of course.
Of course not. If he wanted to get even with you, wouldn't an ideal way be to go through someone that's close to you?
Oh, someone like a sister, perhaps.
You catch on quickly.
Amber, when are you going to stop assuming that you're at the center of everyone's lives? Because the truth is, you are a minor annoyance to most of us, not a major influence.
Stacy.
Well, you're obviously not going to listen to me. I wish you every happiness. By my calculations, you'll have about 6 minutes of it.
Well, the clock started some time ago, so I guess your calculations are a little off. If you'll excuse me, I have to get to work. Talk to you later, Mom.
Yes. Goodbye, dear. Why are you always so afraid, Amber?
Maybe I have a reason to be. I think I'm pregnant. And if I am, guess who the father is?
You're carrying Gil Prescott's child.
Maybe carrying
You
it.
either are or you aren't.
The doctor is 99% sure. I got better odds from a bookie when I left the hospital.
Oh, I'm glad you find it so amusing.
I wish I did.
How far along are you?
Wait just a minute. Let's not jump the gun. As long as there's an 1/8% chance I'm not, I'm holding on to it. About a month and a half.
That explains a great deal.
Does it?
Don't
Like
snap
what?
at me. There are certain risks that you take when you live the kind of life that you do. Don't be angry with me because you're forced to face up to one of them.
Is that disapproval I'm hearing?
Only if I'm hearing a cry of unfair from you.
No.
Good. Well, then make sure it stays that way. What has Gil said about all this?
Nothing. He doesn't know. He's not going to.
Now that is an original approach. You and the countless heroines of all those B movies. The noble gesture.
I'm not sparing Gil anything, only myself. I'm sure that whatever response he would have would be inappropriate.
Oh, inappropriate or not. I think that he's entitled to one. After all, he is part of this process.
The risks I took were mine. The responsibility, therefore, is mine. Possession is 9/10 of the law. In this case, it's all of it.
How are you feeling?
Lousy.
Morning sickness.
If only that were it. This makes Stacy's fantasies about her and Gil pretty ridiculous, doesn't it?
I'd say that it doesn't say very much for either one of you. Excuse me. Yes, Mr. Redmond. Please come in. Thank you. Stacy said that you'd be stopping by. Mr. Redmond, you know my other daughter, Amber.
Yes, ma'am, we've met.
Yes. Excuse me, I've really got to run. I'm expecting an answer to the million-dollar question, but I have to be home to hear it.
I will hear it.
Only if nobody else does. And I mean that more than anything I've ever said, Mother. Nobody.
Oh, would you please sit down, Mr. Redmond?
You feel like blaming somebody, don't you? You know, I felt like blaming people, too. Sometimes that isn't fair, though. I mean, who can you blame for your dad's death? Eric, sometimes bad things happen. Like when my husband was killed, and your father. And we don't understand why. And we get both sad and angry at the same time. But that's natural. You should feel like that for a while.
Really?
Really. But you see, I still had my kids when my husband died. And you've still got your mom. Eric, your mom loves you very much. She wants to help you.
I don't need any help.
We all do. Even big guys like you. She feels terrible that she couldn't live with you and your dad, be one big happy family. But that's all past now. And she's very, very sorry. She needs you to forgive her. Eric, you're all she's got now. It's okay to cry.
Hey, that Gene Redlin's on to us. It's gonna be trouble.
Listen, who can he really go to prove it?
Oh, only two people that I can think of. Kate and Dave.
Did he actually say that he was going to go to them?
Well, I told him to.
What?
Well, I wanted to call his bluff. Besides, any decent reporter would have gone there anyway. So now you get on this phone and tell her to deny it.
No, Sebastian. We've got to write this out as best as we possibly can. She said that she wouldn't publicly retract the engagement until after the election. We're just going to have to trust her.
Well, you see, the irony of my job is I can print the facts, but the facts don't always tell the truth.
Well, every profession has its annoying drawbacks.
Mm-hmm. Miss Phillips, I know for a fact that you turned Lee Crothers down when he proposed to you.
You know for a fact from only one person, Stacy. Sebastian and Lee will say I didn't. I could say I didn't, and that would be 3 against 1. Now, one unconfirmed source, even if it happens to be my daughter, does not make for a fact, Mr. Redlawn. It makes for rumor.
And if I had a source that would agree with her, then what would that make it?
Who?
Your ex-husband.
Has he?
I'm not going to say. I'm only going to point out our friendship. Look, Miss Phillips, I'm going to tell you the same thing I told Sebastian. If this story gets out, a lot of people can be hurt, and I don't want to see that happen. Now, I'm in a position to where I can see to it that things are handled correctly. But I'm going to need some cooperation.
May I at least make a call first? That's the least you can do for me. If for no other reason than you're out of respect for your friendship with Dave.
Well, I can't make any promises. You see, I'm under a lot of pressure from my editor. I'm sorry, but I would be less than honest if I said anything else. I'll, see myself out.
I'll be in touch with you.
Baker Brothers' office.
I'd like to speak to Lee.
Kate.
Upset?
Sounds like it.
Kate, how are you?
Will you be in your office for the rest of the afternoon?
Well, I should be.
Please make sure that you are. I'll be there shortly.